The sponsor of today's interview is College Soccer's Next. College Soccer's Next is the #1 college soccer recruiting service focused on helping aspiring prospective student athletes achieve their dreams of playing college soccer. Some of the services that they're able to provide, I got to read them off the list, include a college soccer mentor who's gone through the recruiting process firsthand, a strength and conditioning coach, a sports nutrition coach, a professional highlight video editor, as well as a personal evaluation and strategic proven plan of action, as well as much, much more to make your dreams of playing college soccer turn into a reality. Book your free consultation call today down in the description at collegesoccersnext.com. Take your first steps at earning your college soccer scholarship today. Enjoy the episode, folks. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Kickball Podcast. Today, we've got a first player in a while, Danny DiPolito of Fordham University, left winger, center attacking mid hybrid out from Fordham University, a New York kid, a New York Gatorade Player of the Year, decided to stay local from the Somers area and then down back in the Bronx. Danny, how you doing today, my man?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Of course, bro. So, first and foremost, you guys are still students at the end of the day. So, with the end of the season, how has just wrapping up final season, the semester been like for you? Just making sure that everything is all buttoned up for for the fall semester.
Yeah, it's been a bit stressful the last couple of weeks just trying to get through finals and stuff, but the
Right.
light's at the end of the tunnel now, so we're happy for it to be coming to an end this semester. So
And I'm sure, like I mentioned before too, and I wouldn't be surprised if this played at least a little bit into the decision. But your family's not too far away. It's just right in, right in this Westchester, Somers, I believe I mentioned before, but I want to make sure I had it right, the Somers area. So,
yeah,
your family's still being around to. I'm sure they come out to games like as much as they can with these home games, and still being able to go back and forth between those areas. That's nice.
yeah, that was definitely a big part. Like close to home, always feel like I have the option to go home. Like I could take the train 45 minutes up and I'm home already. So it's just nice to have that comfort of being able to go back and forth a little bit when I need to.
So that's I don't know what line that is for you, but so I take the blue line for the MTA. Then the train
Yeah,
station's right in my backyard, where
yeah.
I happen to get off. So how far? What line are you? You don't mind me asking, just to make sure.
I take the it depends. Sometimes I take the Crowan line, sometimes I take the red line. It
Okay,
depends on which train comes first, to be honest. Because
right.
they're
Yeah,
both stations are like 10 minutes from my house.
that's dope. Okay, nice. I was gonna say if you ever end up, I'll tell you over. I don't want to be like doxing myself on the thing, but if you ever
Yeah,
in whatever we are, feel free to hang out. We'll go get
yeah,
something to eat for really
yeah,
quick.
for sure.
So now tell me, let's reflect on the season as a whole a little bit. Very productive on your end and a great season for Fordham as a whole. Definitely something that will be looked on moving forward as something that, was very productive and very successful, as I would say, but just still somewhere to continue to be building on with this Fordham program. For yourself, 14 goals, 7 assists, and a first round appearance for this Fordham Rams team. Tell me about maybe first starting the season out in preseason, just those first couple practices during the summer, and then ultimately, moving through just generally, and then, again, ultimately the great season that it was for the Rams.
Yeah, we started in preseason and we had a pretty new group of guys because our team is really built on a lot of the transfer portal, as a lot of teams are nowadays, and we get a lot of grad students. So that was the biggest thing for us, was just getting everyone together the first week or two, getting used to each other on and off the field, and kind of just building that chemistry as soon as we can. And I think that helped us a lot because the first 4 or 5 games we started really strong. So I think that was kind of the biggest thing for us, was just getting everyone together constantly. And then just throughout the season, it was just kind of building upon each other and like having the trust in each other game after game. And we were battle tested. Our schedule was super tough. We played some great teams at the start. We played Hofstra, Penn, and those games challenged us. And they were tournament teams making runs themselves. And it just goes to show the level of team that we were from the start to be able to compete with them. And that gave us confidence going later into the season. And then once you get to conference play, everyone knows it's kind of a different level. And it's almost like it is a whole new season, because whatever you did in non-conference doesn't really matter for your seeding. So in the back of your head, you're kind of just focusing on each conference game. And we looked at it as every game was a final. And that's kind of the mentality we took into every game. And I think it showed. And then to be able to make a run, get some great wins throughout this process, and eventually get that tournament bid was great. And just to look back on the 3 years that I've played for Fordham, freshman year we had 3 wins and didn't even make the A-10 playoffs. And then sophomore year, we got a couple wins, made the playoffs, lost first round of VCU. And then this year to be able to win a bunch of games, have a great season to make the NCAA tournament, it just shows the culture that we're building. And every year and year we get better and better. And I think that goes to show the testament to the program and the people involved and how this program is evolving and how we're gonna keep on progressing and keep on being a competitive team.
And this is just one of those teams that you see this leveling up of this program in real time, and it just it makes it so attractive to guys in this New York area that maybe are looking for that Division I program, want to be a part of a winning culture, and Fordham ultimately ends up being their choice. And that A-10, that tough A-10 as you were talking about. Tell me about some of these games that you had to play in conference. I know Duquesne, very recently, at least with you both in the tournament win and the final game of the regular season, you've had success with that regard, but the A-10 as a whole is not a slouch conference by any means.
Yeah, this year the A-10 was unbelievably strong. We had four teams in the tournament. UMass made the Elite Eight. Dayton was like I think they were the 5 seed this year in the tournament. And it just goes to show the level that the A-10 had this year and the quality the A-10 had. And I think what makes it so special is that every team is truly its own team and everyone plays a different style of play. So you need to approach every game very differently. And I think that was something that we pride ourselves on was being able to adapt game by game. Some games we needed to possess more, some games we needed to drop and counter. And I think that's one of the strengths that we really had as a team is we were able to adapt game after game and keep on slightly tweaking the way that we played even though we kept the same principles, knowing what each game needed differently. Every team in the A-10 plays a totally different style, and that helped us throughout the run. And like I said, those earlier games prepared us to be able to get some results in those games.
And so I could speak more on the experience, at least of the Ivy League and what Cornell was doing just by watching them over the last few seasons. But it's really not like the A-10 where there are different styles with each team. Like even the Big Ten, there's a certain like a style of play, like this brute physicality. But even with the Ivy League, there's this high press that you end up seeing a lot. And you know, um, like with some of these other teams, you talk about which ones are able to beat the high press and which ones were able to look control in that midfield and understand, okay, well, which ways they would be able to move forward. And that was something that, as long as you got that down in the Ivy League, you would look to be successful for the most part. And it just makes a conference like the A-10, going back to what you were talking about, different styles of play so much harder. How do you even begin to prepare for those kinds of games when you've got to get your recovery and there need to be tangible practices that you guys have to get in during these weeks? Sometimes where you're playing 2 or 3 games in a 7, 8, 9 day stretch, but still being able to get that film study. How do you best learn, at least at this college level, especially where now you're being more relied on as one of these older guys?
Yeah, I think it comes down to everyone being truly bought in. Like,
Mm.
as you said, like there's weeks where you play 2, 3 games and you only have 72 hours from game to game to recover, practice, then prepare for the next team.
Right.
And it's a short-term memory. No matter how the last game went, like you kind of just got to move on from it, whether it was good or bad, win, loss, like you just move on because you have to. And you're really just the next morning you wake up and you get together with the guys and you start preparing for the next game, whether it's film, recovery. But the biggest thing for us was everyone always being together. Like we would always have group recovery, group film, like everything was always together. And I think that was how we best prepared was everyone was always on the same page no matter what we were doing. And I think that helped us a lot.
Absolutely. And that's amazing to be able to hear because you hear, I don't know if you know particularly, but at least having done these conversations and seen some other environments, sometimes that cohesiveness is taken for granted. And it's unfortunate, but I'm glad to hear that that's something that, despite guys coming from all over the country with Fordham's become one of those global programs, but still being able to have, that depth locally. I know Bennett Leitner is another guy, at least in this New York area, that you've been able to link up with a few times. But still being able to have this cohesiveness, regardless of where you guys are all from, this is the here and now with the Rams.
Yeah, I think that we have a great mix of internationals and Americans, especially. We have a bunch of guys from the New York area as well.
Right.
And I think we are all able to mesh really well together. And I also think it's the way our school is laid out. Like nobody has a car here. Everything's in walking distance. So being able to send a text and meet with the guys in less than 5 minutes is a huge plus for us because we could just do something on a whim's notice and be able to go do film or go get something to eat or just like the little things. But everyone's always so close together regardless, and it's not a huge effort to go see each other.
That's actually huge. I never really even it even didn't really register as you first were saying it, but now as you put yourself in those situations where it's okay, look, I found something or whatever it even ends up being, like that I mean, I don't need to reiterate exactly what you just said, but that's so valuable, at least in that college environment. I mean, you talk about college is such a unique experience, especially being a student athlete. And, whether it is a ride away, sometimes that's just normal for certain other programs that are more spaced out. Like I know Duke is it's kind of all over the place. It's a huge campus, but for you guys, I mean, I went to Fordham Prep, and I know that campus like the back of my hand. So very tight, and with all the public transport, it's exactly like you're saying, very very tight knit with this team.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that's what helps us out a lot with getting guys together all the time and just scheduling. It just makes everything that much easier.
All right, very dope. So now I just want to get your thoughts on two games in particular, and they're your two hat trick games. And whatever you remember from Duquesne and Santa Clara. I know Duquesne, this was a match that was tight in that first half, where you guys were able to pull away with well with your hat trick, but with also the combined effort of that offensive unit and still being able to hold down defensively. What do you remember from just the production that you've been able to see earlier in the season with Santa Clara, getting those early wins like you talked about, but also down the stretch with Duquesne?
Yeah, I mean, I could start with Duquesne first. We played them my freshman, sophomore, and junior year in the regular season, and they all ended up in ties. So know that it was we knew it was always going to be a tough game, and in the first half it showed. Like it was very cagey, 0-0 going in the locker room, and like obviously it's a playoff game, tensions are a little high, and we go in the locker room and we had that confidence that we always had, and we just got together and we knew what we had to do, and we had confidence in our back line to hold the shutout. And in our head, we only needed one. We were always like, we're gonna get one, and then we're gonna hold on to it. And lucky enough, first chance I got in the second half was able to put it away, and that was like a minute and a half into the second half, and that kind of just, I guess, set the tone for us and gave us that boost of energy that we were just like, yeah, we're gonna go out and win this game. And then from there, it was just the second goal kind of just happened out of nowhere, like one of 50-50, and was able to get some space from long range out and kind of just struck it because nobody else was forward. And when went in the way I wanted it to, and that kind of not put them to bed because they still had some life, but just an added sense of comfort that we had a 2 goal lead instead of one. And then a couple minutes later, we go down, we got it just cagey in the box, get the ball back again, and I find myself on the top of the box and was able to put it in for a third one. And that kind of put the game to bed, which was nice to be on the road and just have that sense of comfort with like 10 minutes left that we knew we were going to close out that game after that goal. And just to be able to be a big part of that win was awesome for me because it was my first playoff win at Fordham. And it was just something special in a game that I won't forget anytime soon.
Very
And
nice.
then going on to Santa Clara, it was still very early in the season, and we were still like tweaking with formations here and there, tweaking with a couple of lineups. Like you said, a little bit of left wing, a little bit of 10. That was actually my first game at left wing of the season.
Got it.
And
Okay.
um, right from the jump, I get the first opportunity to go one on one with their fullback and was able to put it in a cross. And there was a handball, which ended up in a red card. And that was very early into the game, which was unfortunate for them, but fortunate for us. So was able to convert on the penalty and go up 1-0 early. And then the second goal was one of the corner plays that we had drawn up. And it was just perfectly executed from the guys making the runs. And I found myself in the top of the box with plenty of space. I was able to get a good shot off and score the second one.
Yeah.
And then we actually got a third one, Bennett, as you mentioned, who's
Mhm.
been one of my dearest friends for life since I can remember. We grew up together, went
Mhm.
to elementary through high school together. Now we go to college together. So that's always something special. He was able to get the third. And then he was actually able to assist me on the last one. He put in a cross, and it was kind of a mix up in the middle with a couple deflections, and I just found it at my foot like a couple yards out and was able to put it in. So that was the first hat trick of the season, and that obviously felt really good to just secure that game. And obviously, score a hat trick is not something you do every day. So that was definitely a great moment to start the season and gave me confidence going into the remaining of it because that was only 3 or 4 games into the season. So
Exactly.
that gave me loads of confidence for the rest of the year and kind of just almost set the tone for what the year would look like.
Awesome. I love that. And thank you for being able to walk me through those 2 games. I mean, I knew, but just so other people like would look at those numbers. But yeah, I really appreciate it. And it also goes back to I can tell you this personally, not just from um like the other media rooms that I've been able to be in, but at least I've done a little bit of work, at least with Fordham University, just being involved with people who do the production side. And it's game after game where it's okay, look, there's always a post-it note with your name on it with the count, not even a number, but it's the tally marks of the goals and the assists that you have set out. Because you're always someone that ends up being put up on these media boards, at least with, all right, well, look, these are the numbers that this kid has had. Here's the shot accuracy, which is close to 50%, or well, shot on goal accuracy, which is right at, I think it's like 49.3. Just to throw a number out there, at least with your shot accuracy percentage, but you're someone that's just been a part of Fordham's production. I mean, it seems like game after game with every game that's been played. And there's 2 things I want to mention that you touched on as well. And I'll let you go whichever one that you want to talk about first, but it's been these long range shots outside the box, which you don't see so much, whether it be a lack of confidence, at least in the system to be able to allow that player to take that shot, or it just being, maybe it's not the best shot looking for something else, but that's something that you become very confident in being able to do and getting good opportunities doing that. But then also being able to hold on to the 1-0 leads is something that's been characteristic of this Fordham team. So I'll let you speak on either one of those in whatever order that you want, but I knew I wanted to just ask you a little bit about both of those. Those were other things I had written down.
Yeah, first I could go to just I guess the long range shots in my role within the team. Like this year, obviously I was higher up on the field than I have been in the 2 years prior.
Mm.
And just like you said, it was the confidence that my coaches and my teammates have in me to take those shots. And even though the percentage might look high on paper, there's obviously the shots that don't go in. And even after those shots, I have my guys backing me up saying, take it again. Like,
Right.
and to have that confidence from them and my coaches and in myself, of course, to take those shots throughout the season. And you see them go in you see them go in a few games, and then you look back on it, and that just gives you the confidence to go out and try it again. And but I would say most importantly, it's the confidence that obviously my teammates and my coaches have in me to take
Mhm.
those shots, that they allow me to take those shots because sometimes it is a contested shot or it is a tough shot to hit, but you have the capability of doing it. And in a tight game, sometimes you need that moment to set yourself apart from the other team. So that's just something that we've had in our team, and I'm grateful that they allow me to do it, and I'm grateful that I'm able to capitalize on those opportunities.
And that's ultimately what's going to make you an effective pro at the next level, whatever setting it ends up being. I mean, that's huge for anyone. Just to be able to have that confidence to take those shots. But again, I knew I want to add that in there though.
And then going on to being able to hold a lead, like we're a team that prides ourselves on defense first, and
Mm.
kind of our system is almost it's always defend first, and then once we get the ball, then we're always talking about possession with a purpose. We're not a team that knocks the ball for 95% of the game and has possession for 85 minutes. We're a team that likes to get after you. We're totally confident playing a long ball over the top and breaking lines fast. That's kind of who we are as a team. We're fast, we're athletic, we like to be in your face. That's just kind of the style we have. And defensively, I think that translates because we're tough. We go into tackles. We we're totally okay defending for a couple minutes at a time without getting the ball. And I think how we were able to get a lot of results throughout the season in those tough games like VCU and Dayton. We were comfortable defending for long periods of time, and we knew we just needed that one moment on the ball to get a goal. And like we said, going to Duquesne game, although it ended up being 3-0, we just said we needed one. And once we got that one, we were fully confident for the rest of the game.
And so that's so huge. So too, I want to ask a little bit about just this fast, athletic, tough style that Fordham has played. Is it something that you think has changed over the last few years that you've played with Fordham? Has this just been the identity of this team that you've been able to take on, or have you seen certain changes at least over these past few years? I mean, we could talk about, looking at results and the goals scored and everything else over the last few years, but you know, it's a different what ultimately will change results may be, and I don't want to speak on Fordham's, I don't want to speak on your behalf for Fordham, but sometimes what I've seen, it's been a change of a certain style that's allowed to see this swing of results. Has that been the case with Fordham, or you think it's just been, just turning it around this year?
I think it's been that way. I think we were just able to turn it around this year with a couple of results, and I think everyone was super bought into the system. Like I said, we were really this was the year where I think a lot of guys were really bought in with film and with extra work and practice. And I think that translated on the field 100%. And throughout the spring, we really focused on fitness and being able to outrun the other team and being that athletic style and being able to run through teams, defend, and then being able to counter. I think that was something that we really focused on in the offseason. And I think it translated well to this season as we had a lot of guys in the spring that ended up playing in the fall. And I think just having guys comfortable in the system was huge for us.
Fascinating. I've appreciated the insight on the entire year, and it's been something that I think will definitely add layers to people's understanding of just this Fordham system, how you've been able to operate. So I really appreciate the time on that.
Yeah, of course.
So I want to get into more of just your own, you know, your own person, your own character, at least over this past few times. So, I always like asking this question. I'm asking a little bit later because I do like to touch on just the teams now and again. But, if you wouldn't mind, I would love to hear your entire youth soccer journey, how we end up, with Danny DiPolito sitting in front of us doing this interview after 3 years of Fordham. But what has your soccer journey looked like up to this point, starting from your first memories and as much and as little as details you want to hear. I always like hearing everything just because I like to be able to see every part of the story, but however much you're willing and comfortable to share, I'm here for it.
Yeah. So I started just playing my local club, FC Somers, for years. And then that was, it was always just go out to the field and play and just enjoying soccer for the a bunch of years and growing up playing with my friends that I went to school with. It was just our small town, and it was just every single kid that went to the town would play every different sport, and we would just go out play. I played basketball growing up a little bit too, and it
Mm.
was just go to the field and play, and that was kind of growing up how it was, and then throughout the years a little bit as I got a little older into middle school and stuff, it was kind of oh, maybe we could start taking this a little more seriously as the years progressed and how much I loved the game and how much I wanted to improve. And then I ended up making the switch over to what used to be DA. And I played New York Soccer Club and FC Westchester for 3 to 4 years throughout middle school. And that was kind of when my soccer journey became a little more serious and being in that academy environment with guys that had the same mentality and wanted to improve and take soccer a little more seriously was kind of the start of my journey of being a very competitive soccer player. And then after that, at the end of middle school, I wanted to come back and play high school soccer because you weren't able to do both at the time.
Right.
And so I went back, played FC Somers with my friends again, and kind of just embraced the high school soccer experience and played Somers High School soccer for all 4 years. And that kind of culmination of, I find that process to be a little similar to what my college experience has been so far, just starting out as a young guy and then year after year getting a little more experience, a little older, and kind of becoming a role model for the younger guys is kind of the same model that I've tried to embrace at Fordham as now I'm junior, going to be a senior next year, and kind of just be an example for the younger guys. And I think that I learned a lot how to do that through high school soccer, being a freshman and learning from the seniors, and then becoming a senior myself eventually. And yeah, and then my senior year was obviously a great year for me personally, getting a bunch of personal accolades and our team winning the state championship, which is the culmination of New York high school soccer.
Yep.
So to reach that was awesome for us as a town and just as a team. And then that allowed me to be able to get some exposure and end up playing Division I soccer, which was ultimately the goal.
And so along that high school journey, you ended up winning the Gatorade Boys Soccer Player of the Year for the state of New York. And so with the guys that I do end up asking about or who end up earning that kind of award at that high school level, I always want to ask, how did you find out? How did you know you were nominated? What was that process like? And how much of you were you aware of at least along that journey? And was it ever really on your mind? I mean, I gotta imagine I forget what your splits were exactly. There's something crazy like 30 goals, 30 assists or something like in your senior season. Like what in the world? But just what was what was the award process like?
Yeah, so our high school season in New York is in the fall. So we played from August, September-ish to November, similar to the college season.
Right.
And then I kind of just I was playing club with my club team FC Somers throughout the spring, and then come the end of the school year, it was like May, June around Memorial Day, and I got an email from my AD basically saying I was nominated for the award and I had to give them some like information about like my GPA and stuff. And that's how I originally found out that I was nominated for the award,
Mm.
but didn't really expect anything from it and kind of was just like, oh, like this is like because no one from our town has ever won it before.
Right.
So for me, it was kind of almost a shot in the dark to just be like, oh, it's nice to have my name in the hat, and
Right.
hopefully something comes from it. And then a few weeks later, it's like, I think it was either right after our school year ended or right before. It was end of June, and I found out through Instagram as my Somer soccer page. I got a Somer soccer mentioned you in a story, and I opened the story and it's Gatorade Player of the Year, and that's how I found out because I haven't because I didn't check my email before I checked Instagram, of course, that senior does.
That's funny.
So yeah, that's how I originally found out, and I checked my email to make sure it was real,
Yeah.
and yeah, I was kind of just overcome with like just excitement and like seeing all the hard work pay off because that award is not just your work on the field. You have to be a good student and give back to your community. Like
Mhm.
if you look at the press releases for everyone that wins that award, it's encompasses all your work, your community service, your grades, obviously how you are as a soccer player.
Mhm.
So just to see everything that I was doing, not just on the field, but off the field and in my community and in the classroom was just like a great thing to kind of just like it was a cherry on top for the end of the year and the year that I had just a good culmination of the work that I put in.
Absolutely. And it's first, I think it's funny that I still think it's funny that you found out that you first found out about it through Instagram, but I think that's like such a that's like such a shock of a way to figure that out. But I don't want to harp on that too much. But with an award like that, they need to be sure that, there's so many of these checks end up going through and knowing you as a person. And, for it to show the community service work that you've done in your life, the kind of student that you were, the kind of player that you were, I mean, it shows, it really encapsulates your high school journey as this capstone, you know, what am I going to say? This capstone achievement that you've been able to earn, and it's just something that I think will still that Somers will always be very proud of you being their first and really one of the most prominent players that's really ever come out of the area.
Yeah, I mean, I'm proud to have that achievement and be able to continue to rep Somers as a town and as an area and just be able to continue kind of that legacy and just be a representative of them in my day-to-day life and
Yeah.
throughout my college journey.
And so going on to that college journey, when you're weighing out a lot of the schools that wanted to bring you in to play college soccer, I'm sure there was more than just for I don't know personally, but I gotta imagine that there were more than just Fordham who were calling you in. Um, and so at that, what ended up leading you to the decision that you want to be playing in the Bronx for your collegiate career, your collegiate tenure, as opposed to maybe some of the other schools that were looking out for you?
Yeah, I came to Fordham first, and I loved the fact that it was close to home and only an hour away. And I
Mhm.
stepped foot on campus, and it didn't feel like I was close to home at all. It felt like a true college campus, and I fell in love with the area. I fell in love with the coaches, and they believed in me and always had that faith in me since I was a junior and senior in high school. And I felt that belief in every conversation that we had, and I still do to this day. And then that was my first visit because it was in the summer and no kids were on campus yet. So I thought I originally I was in love with the campus and was like, but I have to meet the people first before
Right.
I make a decision. And I went on a visit during the fall and met the team, met the guys, and that's when I made the decision in my head. It was like, this is the place I want to be. I
Yeah.
spent a whole day with the players in their apartment, just living a normal college day. It wasn't a game day. It wasn't anything crazy. It was just a typical day.
Mhm.
And that honestly helped me make my decision way more because I knew that if I enjoyed that random day in the fall as much as I did, I would greatly enjoy my time at Fordham, even on the big days and the game days. And I think that was the biggest part, knowing that my day to day and the people that I'd be around were so special. And that was the biggest thing that led me to Fordham was just that sense of family, that sense of comfort, and just the environment that I knew I'd be getting myself in.
And you don't find it every day to the degree that you end up doing. So when you end up seeing that, that's something you have to take advantage of.
Yeah, for sure. I couldn't do, I have no regrets on my decision whatsoever, not even a shadow of a doubt in my mind that I chose the right place. So,
Well, congratulations on that. I mean, I don't know if you see the account too often anymore. I know it was right around during the preparation, the trials of the NCAA tournament, but with some of the guys, right as soon as the portal opened, transfers on transfers. And there's nothing wrong with that inherently, but sometimes just that first environment doesn't work out and you have to find somewhere else better. And it's good on them to take the initiative, but to find somewhere that you want to call home for your college tenure. And I keep saying college tenure because I don't want to rush you out of Fordham or say anything about you staying there or anything like that. But your college tenure is so important. And to find a home for that for 4 years or for however long that it ends up, I say 4 years because it's the regular student, but to find a great place like that for 4 years is so huge.
yeah, I think that's the biggest thing and what Fordham offers so well is the life outside of soccer. It's a great school, great academics. You're 15-minute train ride away from Grand Central in Manhattan.
Right.
It's just, it gives you like every opportunity to go and do what you want outside of soccer, outside of the 3-4 hours that you're dedicating to soccer every day with the team. And obviously, individually, you could put in that work outside, which everyone does, but it gives you that opportunity for the other 10 hours of your day to really, it gives you the opportunity to do what you want and explore other facets of your life however you want to pursue them.
Right. And that's so huge though too, because after leaving school and ultimately figuring out, okay, well, where these professional opportunities want to lie, people want to know what you're doing outside of the 3-4 hours of training or the game days. And really this time allows you to explore these other interests that you've talked that or other interests that you see.
Yeah, no, I think that's really what our team is so special is everyone spends that time. Like we always spend a good amount of time together, and then there's always that time for everyone to explore what they're doing, whether it's internships, job interviews, just going to the city to explore because a lot of guys are from other countries and from other areas of the country.
Mhm.
And just showing them New York is always a special thing.
And so what was that like with the Rough Riders too? Not to go so much of like a 180, but you have um these guys from Long Island or no, guys from Long Island or guys from New York like yourself who end up coming to this USL2 summer league setting that ends up holding the standard of, I think, Eastern, really the East Coast in terms of USL2 soccer with the Rough Riders. And you got guys, I mean, I talked to Nigel Prince about this, however far back it was. Um, uh, Justin McLean, another Atlanta kid. Trip Fleming was a dude from Wisconsin. But with all these other guys who want to come on, what did that look like in showing guys around New York or the other New York area when you're traveling around these certain other spots?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was the biggest selling point of the Rough Riders was you knew the level of player they were going to bring in from all
Mhm.
over the place, like you mentioned, and that was an amazing experience for the summer and to be surrounded by like-minded individuals that it was
Right.
always prepping for our season in USL2 and getting those results and ultimately winning our conference, which was very competitive. And that was a great experience, as well as getting prepped for the fall season and still staying in touch with those guys and seeing how successful they are as well and being like following their seasons, like you mentioned, Trip, Nigel, and a bunch of the other guys, like the Hofstra guys I played in the first game of the season. So
Yeah.
that was funny to see all of them again. But it was just the environment that we were in and being able to experience New York with them and Long Island and just the whole New York, I guess, New York experience, being able to show them and experience that with them throughout the summer was great and definitely an experience that I enjoyed throughout the summer and would loved and then prepared me and all the other guys for the fall season and are going back to our college.
Right. And you know what though too, when I end up going back with the Flames and I have to call those games and I see, okay, well, who's up on the schedule? It's Long Island coming over to New Rochelle. I'm like, all right, well, I get to see some of my boys back at Pierce. I forget from Hofstra. It slipped my mind a second ago, but I also had him on the podcast, so I wouldn't forgive myself if I forgot him. But yeah, I see Long Island. They're coming to New Rochelle. I'm like, all right, well, this is going to be a tough game, but it's nice that I know, um, how close knit that group is and how many of you guys are still, just balling out. It's going to end up coming out to being this summer season flows right into the fall, and that's what ends up being so huge for you guys.
Yeah, definitely. I think I look on this season and I came into preseason super fit and super ready for my college season because of the summer and everyday training was intense. And then you get the games, which were also obviously very intense because our conference was so good. And just that was just the biggest preparation for me. And I felt that coming into preseason at Fordham, I was already flying. I wasn't like getting myself together during preseason. I was already prepared, and I think that experience with the Rough Riders helped me so much.
So now what is getting in on those teams look like? I know with those top tier teams, it's never a given really for any of those guys, even as, guys like yourself and these other phenomenal players end up coming into that team during the summer. There's no guarantee that all of you are going to start or which one of you guys ends up starting. What do those first practices look like in that regard? I'm just curious what it looks like getting that started.
Yeah, I mean, it was always a little weird because it's the season starts in the middle of May, and some
Right.
guys are still finishing up their semester and are still at school, and other guys are there for the first training. So the first 2 to 3 weeks is always a little up in the air with guys coming a week later because of school, or they're just home for a week because they're far away. And so it's just really getting acclimated to your surroundings for the summer and what life is going to look like during practice and during the games. And I know with Rough Riders, we only had a week of practice before our first game, but that team from the first game was totally different than the team that we had at the end of the summer because we had guys coming in 2 or 3 weeks later after the first game.
Right.
And that whole process of the summer is just kind of just being open and ready to adapt, which is something that like I've learned from Fordham and the A-10, like we mentioned, every game needing something different, just being able to be open and being able to adapt on the fly is something that I've really gotten used to. So it was kind of just like another day where it was just this is what we need on this given day, this is what we need for this game, and it was kind of just adjust and adapt and get ready for the next one.
Very nice. Right. Perfect. So, and I mean, I guess I've gotten a lot of just really my other notes though too down. The only thing else that I really want to talk to you about was, I mean, the only thing it's probably gonna take me about 20 minutes to finally like to to satisfy myself, just the kind of player that you are, and make sure I get through everything. But and we've talked at the beginning about this this cam role, but also having the ability to play on that left wing. And I think we've also seen a little bit of this change, at least with Long Island. I mean, it's something that I feel like we've seen a little bit of both, at least during this summer, with those between those two positions. But in the adjustments between both of them, which one do you feel that you've become really comfortable with, or or how am I trying to word this? Like the positions that you become really comfortable with, but also the skills that you've developed by playing both of these, and what have become, new strengths for you, at least as of late.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's just made me more of a well-rounded player, being able to play out wide, being able to play in the middle. It's just like I mentioned, it's game almost a game by game thing where it's depending on what the game needs. I know going in and being able to adjust even during the game, 30 minutes in or at halftime, there were games where I would switch between the two. And just being able to have the role of playing both at times and knowing that that was okay and just being able to change really fast and change the mentality and know what each role was a huge is a huge thing and was a huge thing throughout the season was prepping for a game. I knew what my role was at left wing. I knew what my role was as a 10 and
Right.
just being able to prep with different guys and throw different things at the other team was a big thing for us throughout the fall was we knew
Mhm.
we would start this way and then 30 minutes in this another guy would come on and change our look and change how we would attack. So
Mhm.
I think that was a big thing for us as a team and a big thing for me personally was being able to change between the two. But I don't think I enjoy playing both very like the same almost. I enjoy just being out there and playing to so I know that sounds cliche, but just being out there and being able to get the ball and run at guys and attack is kind of just what I love to do on the field and I'm able to do it in both positions even though it's a slightly different look, but I think both roles I feel very comfortable in now and just being able to especially at Fordham this year be a kind of a creative and kind of being the guy that creates the chances was just super enjoyable and success came out of it, which is always nice to see. But it was just it was super enjoyable to be able to go from the 10, maybe an 8 to left wing to maybe sometimes up top, being able to switch positions and switch roles even in the middle of the game was always a good it was a good thing because we were able to adapt and we had success changing and teams didn't know how to adjust to us with so many different looks.
Right. And you've got this dribble on, you have this on ball ability that is able to allow you to be effective at each of these positions though too, and that's also been something that has allowed you to um be more well-rounded and understanding of certain situations when, okay, well, let's say something's not working and you have to make that change. It's not a jarring transition, and it's not something that's going to be rigid for you, that you're really able to do this effectively while also communicating to your teammates, at least in that offensive third, or um you know not necessarily on a fast break, because there's you can't communicate a whole lot because there's a whole lot going on. But in any case, it just makes you more valuable.
Yeah, and I think that was a thing for Fordham this whole fall was we had a bunch of guys that could play a bunch of different roles as well. Like
Mm.
it wasn't just me who was able to switch from 10 to left wing. We had a bunch of guys that were able to switch from a 10 to a striker to a winger, and just having everyone be able to be that flexible and be okay being that flexible was huge for us because game after game it would require a different switch and in the middle of the game and everyone was comfortable and everyone was confident in those roles and that allowed us to be successful in a lot of games.
Yeah, I mean, just a phenomenal look, at least for just you being able to continue to grow though too. So has this been, do you think we're really, just seeing the culmination of all this hard work over the last, I mean, it's longer than the past 2 years, but like 4 or 5 years of just developing these skills? Or has it just been something that maybe it's been a switch this past season? I gotta imagine it's the former, but I want to hear your perspective on that. What's it looked like in, us being able to see this 21 goal contributions, and where is it coming from? What's your answer?
Yeah, I think it definitely is a culmination of just work over the years. Like every off season is I'm trying to work on something new and trying to develop a different part of my game. And I think that is part of it. Doesn't take 1 year. It takes 4, 5, even 6, all the way to way back in the day was I was always looking to improve something. I remember way back when, and like it was like middle school, and it was, oh, I got to be able to use my left. And then once I was able to do that well, it was, oh, and now I got to do this, and now I got to become faster, and now I got to be able to be comfortable on the ball. And it was just every year, and as I grew up, was something different. And I think now that I'm getting older, and now that I am a junior, and this is my junior season in college, it's just been the culmination of every kind of thing that I've worked on and all coming together and year after year kind of putting in that work, and now it's all coming together to look like that complete polished player.
Very nice. So, um, I mean, admittedly, I think we covered a whole hell of a lot about, just your career, the kind of player that you are. But so I would like to leave this off as just saying every note that I had written down, we've been able to touch on in a great way. And I think, this is something that, I've really been able to enjoy learning a little bit more about you. We've met a few times, at least in these summer games, but never in this setting. And I feel like I've known you so much more now. But if there's anything that I didn't cover, if there's anything that you want to continue talking about, I want to leave the interview open for you now. But I'd like to thank you again, Danny, for wanting to come on.
Yeah, no, thank you. I guess the one thing that I would just leave is just with us as with myself, I talk about the progression of the player I've become, and with the program, I think is the biggest thing that I've been able to be a part of is as a captain, as a junior, and just being able to see it from freshman year to now and being able to be a big part of the progression of a program that we had. It was our sixth time in the tournament ever, and the last time we were in was the COVID spring. So I've never experienced a NCAA playoff game before, and just seeing that progression of the program and knowing that we're going to continue on this upward tick is just something special to be a part of, and I know that it's bigger than myself.
Danny, it's been a pleasure once again. If you've always got a supporter in me and kick a ball the rest of the way. I'm wishing you all the best with what could be to come in the next few days, but also just this next several years that your career could end up being. But I really appreciate the time again and all the best, of
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
course.